This is for the leaders, the visionaries, the hope bringers, kindness instigators. This is your place to get loved, poured into, activated, and inspired. Good morning. Welcome to Fireside Friday, January 16th, 2026. Um, I'll be honest. Sorry, closing the window here. Um, it's hard to be in this space today, like good. It's the right place for me to be, but I feel um in between the posts of some just hard things. And so I feel like that's where I want to start today is just with me. Um, we have a family dog, Peaches, and she's 5. We got her right after my dad passed in 2020, and she actually came to live at my mom's house before my mom returned home um, after losing my dad because she had been staying somewhere else to be closer to the hospital that he was in. And so um, he uh, it was just difficult. So she stayed somewhere closer that a person had a house close to the hospital where he was. And even after he passed, it was difficult to come home, to return to a space that had been theirs together, that they had created together. And so Peaches actually came home either the same day she did or right before her. And um, and so right now, there's a lot of grief happening in our family because Peaches is not doing very well. She's been in and out of the veterinary hospital, and her kidneys are failing. She has Lyme disease. We caught that, I think, too late. There's just a lot of things going on. Her body has really fought to be here. And honestly, I'm still holding out hope that she will choose to stay or that she could choose to stay. Um, but we do have an appointment today at 4. Unless she eats something this morning, we are going to help her make that transition from the physical back into the spiritual. And so today's really hard. Um, I've been grieving a lot since I got that phone call at about 3 or 4 yesterday. Because I just want more time. I want more time and I want saying goodbye is never easy. Oh, and grief is really hard. And I think one of the things that has been really supportive um, in this season of my life, and even after losing my dad, is it really did push me into some liminal spaces, some spaces that I don't know if I would have been able to get through without his transition. That was an invitation into, and I'm trying to see Peach's transition in the same way, even though it's really challenging. And I keep believing that what will happen today will be for the greatest and highest good for her and for all of us. Meaning that this transition, if she does choose, or it's time for her to cross from physical back into just the waters of the spiritual, I'm reminded that we're always able to well, touch, touch hearts. I was going to say touch, but that's still so physical. I really do believe that no matter what, we will always maintain a relationship with her spirit and her soul. And that they are leaving a mark here in this place with us. Um, and I didn't always look at life like that. I mean, actually, I don't know that I really thought about it. I didn't really think about how everything was connected beyond this life until I really had to face that with my dad. Um, and losing him in that way of losing the ability to touch him, to sit with him in physical proximity. And I feel like this grief that's welling up in me is for Peaches, it is for my dad, it's for my mom, it's for my family, because she is part of our family. And I feel like there's a lot of grief for us as a country and a collective as well right now, in things not being the way that we planned. Life is often not the way that we thought it would go. And so, in these moments, in these spaces where I'm at a loss, I have started doing different practices that I feel like I wanted to share today, or things that I've noticed that I wouldn't have before losing my dad, because it has pushed me to experience life differently. And so these spaces of transition, I think one of the things that really I had to come up against was that I grew up in a faith that taught me that yes, like if you believe in God and Jesus and He loves you, you'll go, and when you leave here, you'll be in heaven with Him, and that's separate. And I never really thought much about that until I had to sit with that separation and wonder, is my dad separate from me now? Is this transition something that I can not experience him again? Like, what will that look and feel like for me? And I started getting invitations into imagining that something more might be possible than we're just separate because death has separated us. Yes, he's in paradise. Yes, he's in an amazing place. He's at peace. So you can be at peace too. Well, if you've ever lost someone you love, that's not quite enough. It doesn't feel enough anyway. At least it doesn't for me, for someone who literally was there from the beginning I took my first breath. And I would still love for him to be here physically until I took my last. um, but that is not the way that our lives have played out. And obviously, it probably wouldn't have ever transpired that way. But then again, maybe he would be sitting here then in this loss and transition and talking about the same thing of having to navigate that space of um, transition that we don't have the tools for. We have to navigate as we move through it. And I think that's the same invitation that we have often in life. Often we do crave a map, we crave um, the code to break it down and make it easier. But I have to tell you right now in this space, it is hard. Grief isn't easy. It's never easy to love so deeply and in deep connection, I think, the way that we're made to. And so, what I have come to believe, like truly believe, is that we don't actually lose one another, that we're never lost, that love is always with us, even if we're experiencing this relationship in a different way. And one of the examples of this, and so me transitioning and being open to that was the first thing that had to happen. I had to start being open to believing that maybe the things I was taught about me being separate from those that I love when they leave, when they transition into the spiritual realm, might be different. What if actually I just get to experience that relationship in a different way than I'm used to, that I've been taught was accessible or okay. And I had to become available to even like let some of those things land for me. One of the first things that happened for me when my dad passed away is I had a coach that I was working for, that was very close to, and she sent me a podcast episode that she had just recorded. She had not even published it. She sent me the raw file, and she was like, "You have to listen to this." And she knew I was navigating the loss of my dad. And so it had been a recording between her and two daughters, Serena and Sage Dyer. And Serena and Sage Dyer are the daughters of Wayne Dyer, who, if you're familiar with Wayne, or if you're not, he is a great spiritual teacher. Check him out on YouTube if you've never heard of him. Just when he speaks, I just feel like there's a lot of grounded wisdom there for us. Um, and so they were talking about losing him because they had lost him a couple years before and navigating that transition as well. But they would have some interactions that would push them beyond the physical, that would push them to question, like, are we still interconnected? And so one of the stories I love that they told was talking about how when they first lost their dad, they went to a publishing event. Um, in, I don't know, maybe in the Northeast somewhere, but it was for Hay House Publishing Company, which is they produce spiritual and holistic types of literature. And Louise Hay is the one who founded that publishing company, if you've heard her name. And Wayne was a author that had been published through that publishing house. And so they hosted a memorial for him. And the daughters would end up sitting next to a really well-known psychic. I forget her name, but she was friends with Wayne. And so they got to talking. And ultimately, she made space in her schedule for them to be able to come. Well, it was supposed to be one daughter who had an appointment with her. She's booked out for a couple years. And so one of the daughters, she as a token in her friendship with Wayne, she just felt like she wanted to be able to be a bridge between the family and Wayne. And so they came in for an appointment, and one of the daughters had just had a baby. And the psychic, when she sat down, she said, "Well, first of all, your dad's telling me congratulations, you're pregnant." And she was like, "No, no, I'm not. I just had a baby. Like, you're wrong. Like, maybe you're getting like, I had a baby." And she's like, "No, no, he's telling me that you're pregnant and that he's showing me 4th of July fireworks." And she's like, "You're a little off your rocker." Now, other things would come through in that session that would strike true, that would make them go, how could you know something like that? How could you possibly know? But what I love about that encounter specifically is that she went right after their session to go purchase a pregnancy test. Now, she's navigating the loss of her dad. She's a new mom. She's like, I didn't even remember having relationship with my husband. And she was like, she took a test. She was pregnant. Her appointment revealed her due date was July 4th. And then fast forward to when she goes into the delivery room. Her sister is with her, so both sisters are together. And the psychic is calling the sister who's not in labor. And she's like, the psychic's calling me. Do you want me to pick up? I know, like, you're busy right now. And the sister who's in labor is like, yes, pick up the phone. So she picks up the phone, and the psychic says, is your sister in labor? And she said, yes. And she said, she wanted me, your dad wanted me to tell you that he's there in the room with you. He loves you so much. And it was just another nod, another impossible thing. How could this woman who's who just met them, be this conduit, this connection for something she could not possibly know. And that story would lead me to read their book, which is great. It's called The Knowing, and they wrote it together, and they talk about some of those synchronicities and living life now, learning how to navigate a spiritual world without the man who was this prolific spiritual teacher. And I related a lot and still relate a lot to some of what they had to do in order to come into their own. And that's actually been a real gift of this transition of my dad, is that he and I communicate with him often. I dwell with him often. And so in this space of navigating this transition with Peaches that will probably take place today, because I've received some confirmation that it will probably happen yesterday, when I was just at a loss, was asking for just some comfort, some guidance. And so I ended up pulling 2 books off my shelf. One was this green book that I haven't looked at in forever. I don't even remember what it's called. I flipped to a page and it was about synchronicity. And one of the stories she told in the chapter was how she came into contact, just like little baby chapter. It was all about synchronicity. But she was talking about how one of the stories she told, which connected to her own, was that she came into contact with a family that was saying goodbye to their dog and sending that dog off in a loving way. And the next book I pulled open was actually a little journal my dad wrote for me. He started it right before I was born, and he wrote into it until I was about 3, pretty sporadically. And that's the other one that I selected because I just was looking for some comfort. And he was writing to me maybe about my first birthday, where he and I watched All Dogs Go to Heaven together. And so I just felt like, yes, it was comforting. And it's almost like preparation. And again, even in this, like this navigation of the space of letting go of something that was, to make room for what's to come, and navigating this in a different way. I don't have to like it sometimes. We don't have to like that. It's still hard. It's still hard being different than what we thought. Um, the other really cool thing, and this just speaks to synchronicity and the year ahead, is that I was actually speaking with a friend this week, and I don't know what it was, but I looked up and I had a bottle. Actually, I'm going to share the image if I can pull it up. I know we're all over the place today. Um, at least I feel a little all over the place. So just bear with me here. Let's see. When I go here, let me pull up the preview really quick. As I took some screenshots for us, but still too many floating windows. Get out of here. Then the window got bigger. Okay, let's do this. Can I open you guys? Nope. Here we go. All right. Okay. So this bottle that you can see, I think you can see. Where did it go? It disappeared for me, but you guys can see it. Okay. So this bottle was a gift to me from a friend for my birthday. And I was immediately struck by this gift because it I don't know, it evokes something in me. There's moss in the bottom of it, but if you can see, there is a feather on top and there's a couple feathers inside of it. And something that I really do associate with my dad is birds of prey, especially hawks, and eagles. But we don't have a ton of eagles around here, so I see hawks often, or I'll be with friends and they'll spot them and like, hey, it's your dad. So immediately I saw the feathers and just really felt like, I've loved this. And I've actually wanted some feathers. I've found feathers on my own, but I want a few more. Those are also a fun wink I think we receive, um, if we're asking, and they could be feathers from loved ones and people, our ancestors and guides who are supporting us. That's something too that I wouldn't have said 5 years ago, but I happily say it all the time now. And even this morning, on the way, I was driving early this morning, I saw a license plate 444. And I saw 555 a lot yesterday. So repeating numbers and synchronicity, coming back into the synchronicity and how we're supported. So but on this bottle, something I hadn't really like placed was the horse on the front, which is like that little medallion. And I love the horse with the feather together. But it, and we are actually about to come into the Chinese New Year, which is the year of the horse. We're leaving a year of the snake. We've been shedding, and now we're going to pick up some momentum in 2026 to start heading forward. And I have really felt a sense of like preparation going on for me, that this year feels it does feel like it's going to move fast and amplify. And I have felt excited in some ways, inept in others, but I felt like there's a reminder here between that horse and the feather, like that I'm being carried, that I'm being supported even now, in this transition with Peaches as well. And that was a reminder from Nicole, my mentor, yesterday as well. But what was really cool about this is I looked up at this bottle yesterday morning. I saw the feather, I saw the horse. Um, and like, it clicked into me like I have this symbolism for into 2026, but it reminded me of something else that I had seen before, um, maybe 2 weeks before it, before I was like looking at this bottle that had been given to me in October. And I'm just laying it out because these things, if we're paying attention, if we if we lean into the magic that what's meant for us won't miss us, that we are supported, that we have support available to us beyond what we are responsible for. Because isn't that life? Like, is that not life? We can't take responsibility for the beautiful things that we have that come to us. Like, they're so freely given. It's so beautiful when we really stop and think about that. But what I realized is that several weeks ago, I took a screenshot of it because it reminded me again of 2026 coming with the year of the horse and my dad and the bird carrying this horse. And when I was younger too, my dad used to always ask me, like, well, late high school, college, like, what do I want to do? And it was always around people, like loving people. And he's like, but what do you want to love them into? And I was always like, freedom. I want to love them into freedom. And I didn't really have language outside of that about what that meant. And I'm still spiraling towards that answer each and every day. But what was cool is that when I was younger, and this is all going to make sense in a second, when I was younger, I had a family that I used to babysit for. And they loved the movie Spirit, which is an animated film. And there's a horse, there's a bird. I don't remember this movie, but I remember the soundtrack. I love Bryan Adams. He did the soundtrack for the movie. I used to listen to it all the time. I watched that movie once or twice, but that soundtrack, I think actually Mary Ruth, the mother of that family, bought it for me because I listened to it so much. So she bought the CD for me. And one of my favorite songs, the chorus, like builds up to, "You can't take me, I'm free. You can't take me, I'm free." So here I was a few weeks ago. I am like on Instagram or something. And some tattoo artist was like, "Look at these flash tattoos I made for the movie Spirit." And I was like, "Cool, let's check them out." I'm going to show you guys the image that was there as one of the tattoos. And I just was like, whoa. And I share it here too because I looked at that bottle yesterday and I was like, that tattoo, this is that tattoo in like a very physical form in my physical environment, sitting here with me before me. And it just has continued to bring me courage, hope, support, the idea too, like just like knowing or being reminded again that we are supported, that we are so deeply connected, that we're cared for, um, and that we can take the things on our heart, even when they're hard, even when they're heavy, even when we're navigating something that we didn't plan for. And we can ask for the support that we need, but knowing that we are supported. We are supported even in this space. And I did want to also just share um, a picture of Peaches with us today because, we're still in the question of what's going to happen this afternoon. But like I said, I feel like I've received some confirmation that today will be a time of transition. I will be so happy to be wrong. Regardless, it has tended my heart. And our sweet girl, like this, I took this yesterday when I was with her. I'm headed there shortly to just spend some time with her and soak up what we can. But again, knowing that even if today is a time of transition, and I say this for you all as much as it is for myself, that we get to be in that transition in a different way. Um, and we're invited into a different experience of our loved ones beyond the physical. And actually, too, I really feel like that spiritual realm is what we're made of. I feel like a lot of times this physical, you can't take me, I'm free. That lyric and that line I think is so true because I think so much of what traps us here in this physical realm is often right here. It is in what we choose to believe. It is how we choose to let things hold us or bind us. And so if you're feeling held or bound and you're craving more freedom in your beliefs, in your tolerance, and there must be a better way, lean into that. That is an invitation. It so is. And that friction, that wondering, that thing that's jutting up against and pushing in a little bit, like digging in, um, is creating something for you. It is an invitation into something. And so, all right, lastly, here's our card for today. Bridget is the card, and this is coming from the Divine Feminine Oracle. Bridget, the god of the eternal, the goddess of the eternal flame. I am an eternal flame, and each day my light grows brighter. Who she is, Bridget represents the essence of an inner dawn and the healing that comes from knowing that the best is yet to come. Bridget is the goddess of pre-Christian Ireland. She is associated with the Indo-European dawn goddess and the coming of spring. She is celebrated in a Celtic festival called Imbolc that takes place halfway between the winter and spring solstices, which will come at the end of January. So January 31st, February 1st, 2nd will be that halfway point for Imbolc, just for your reference. It is said that at the moment between dusk and daybreak, Bridget arose into the sky with flames like rays of the sun blazing in her hair. There's a shrine near Kildare in Ireland that is sacred to the Druids because it was believed to have been a place where Bridget's priestesses tended to her eternal flame. This is where they learned the ancient healing practices that are associated with Bridget. And this is where, in 4080 CE, St. Bridget built a monastery in honor of the goddess and created a communal and consecrated center for women's religious life and learning. Bridget is associated with poetry and with all things elevated, states of being, high rising flames, lofty dimensions, elevated wisdom. She is said to have created the whistle for calling out for one person to another while walking through the night, which lifts the wanderer with its levity and reminds her she's not alone. When your soul selects her card, there's that moment when you're making your way through the dark, and suddenly, after what feels like days or months or even years, a ray of light comes through to you. A lightning happens. Each step isn't quite as hard to make as the one before. And you feel a great shift begin, as if now you're headed towards something new, something even brighter. Bridget is the essence of that first flame, that first ray of life. Bridget reminds us that the darkness never lasts. Bridget's eternal flame represents the truth that the light never leaves us and can never be extinguished. It simply gets obscured or blocked from us. She reminds us that every day is actually filled with light. There are many days and times in our lives when we endure thick cloud cover, when that flame that exists within us is blocked by pain or confusion. Bridget is the sweet sound that reaches to us in the dark and reminds us that we have never been on this journey alone. Bridget is our sign, and the dawn is here because we have made it through the dark winter. We can lift our head. The healing has happened, and now each next day is bound to be brighter. I love that. The healing has happened. The healing has happened. The hope is coming. The light through the darkness shines. What a beautiful, beautiful way to end our fireside today. The healing has happened. I'll see you next week. Sending so much love.